this piece in the New York Times called The Vanishing Male Worker, How America Fell Behind. And it's telling some and of course, the problem here is that the New York Times is doing some good reporting and they draw all the wrong lessons from it. See, as we have the $1.1 trillion Cromnibus bill going through, Cromnibus Prime, this goes through and people think, well, I guess it's just we're helpless and maybe it's not such a big deal. What can this actually mean for all of us? This piece in the Times, I think, gives us a way to look at what it all means. The vanishing male worker. Now, the Times will take from all this, before I get into some of the details of this, the Times will say that what this shows us is that we need jobs programs, and we need more government assistance. We need more government programs. We need the government to fix these problems. But, of course, what they've done, accidentally what the Times has done with this piece, is create a compendium of very real, very painful lessons for why our government right now is failing us and how it is doing things that are making our lives increasingly desperate and difficult. It starts off, it says, Frank Walsh still pays dues to the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, but more than 4 years have passed since his name was called at the Union Hall, where the few available jobs are distributed. Mr. Wolf, his wife, and 2 children live on her part-time income and a small inheritance from his mother, which is running out. Sitting in the food court at a mall near his Maryland home, he sees that some of the restaurants are hiring. He says he can't wait much longer to find a job, but he's not ready yet. I'd work for them, but they're only willing to pay $10 an hour, he said, pointing to a Chick-fil-A that probably pays its workers less than that. I'm 49 with 2 kids. $10 just isn't going to cut it. Now, it goes further into the details, and it tells the story of the American male worker via these personal vignettes, these anecdotes. But what you keep running into, and the Times doesn't take it this way, of course, they're just looking at the desperation that's happening right now. Of course, absent any democratic policies, they're pointing out the desperation as a means of justifying higher taxes, more programs, more. The government has to do more. We see this from diametrically opposed positions. The writers of the Times are pointing out people who are still of working age and want to work and are not working for rational reasons. It goes on to talk about individuals who, for example, can do odd jobs on the side, I assume off the books, and keep their federal benefits, keep their food stamps, and keep, perhaps they're on partial disability, and that actually is, financially speaking for them, a better situation than working at an entry-level job. It's rational. They're rational. They're not lazy. They're rational. Because the way the government has structured all of this, it punishes you for working more. It's punishing your success. These are people who, they're working, but they can't get ahead. They can't actually find a way to make ends meet for their families. And I also, of course, see this and think of the recent decision to go forward with amnesty and how that is absolutely crushing American workers who are here, who are trying to get back on their feet, who want a paycheck, who want to be a part of the working world. This whole article is about the working world, by the way. This whole piece. And it gives you some it's a pretty comprehensive data, and it gives you some very interesting nuggets to work with here to think about. This is what non-working men say. And among every 100 men ages 25 to 54 who do not work, 64 out of 100 want a job. 45 out of 100 have looked for a job in the last year. 25 out of 100 have looked for a job and would be willing to take one that pays minimum wage. 34 out of 100 have been convicted of a crime. 17 say their health is poor. 22 get money from a spouse or other employed person in their house. 20 get income from temporary work or odd jobs. 90 out of 100 have had a full-time job. 22 have missed a rent or mortgage payment because they stopped working. I mean, this is depressing stuff to read through, because what you see are individuals who have worked and would like to work, but when they look at the options open to them right now and they look at what they have to pay in taxes versus what they get in benefits, the jobs open to them versus the benefits given to them by the government, it creates a trap. And so they make what would be a rational economic decision in some circumstances, but then, of course, there are other problems that come with that. There's the loss of a sense of dignity, a loss of a sense of manhood. And there's also, of course, the breakdown of the family. I mean, this piece, you should really, I would recommend, I rarely recommend you go to the Times, but you should go and check this out, because what we've seen is a collapse, relatively speaking, in working men in this country, men in the labor force. And this is going to have ramifications for generations to come. It's not even just a financial issue. It's also a social issue. It's also a family issue. Young men can't make enough money to get a home and have the stability that they feel they need to get married and raise kids. So how are they going to make the next step? I mean, the downstream effects of what we're seeing right now because of government intrusion into the marketplace, into the economy, into the jobs market, because of the government's failure to secure the border, because of the Obama administration's decisions to allow this amnesty to go through, as well as to, of course, basically invite more and more illegal crossings during his time in office. And now taking more in taxes than ever before, yet still running up debts. And here we are, $1 trillion spending bill just goes through. Business as usual. I think it's time we say enough is enough. I don't know what the answer is, but I know that this is not it. I know that the desperation right now that is felt by people across the country of various socioeconomic backgrounds, of young men and middle-aged men across the country who just want a shot and are finding themselves increasingly in a place where they're never going to get it. I think we can all recognize that President Obama's promises and the Democrats' promises of making this all better for us are false. So it's actually changing our society. We are in the process of a transformation in America to something that is very close to, and in some ways even more egregious than a European welfare state. Because we don't have any sort of a secure border, and we continue to import cheap labor. This is depressing stuff. I know it's a Friday, and I don't want to. I'm going to stop on this for now. But I was reading through this piece, and I couldn't help but look at it and say, this is the result of the Great Society and the welfare programs and the destruction of the family unit and the importation of cheap labor. It's men across the country who can't get a job, who can't pay their bills, who feel like they're hopeless. And all the Democrats offer is maybe we'll up your welfare benefits a little bit. Maybe we'll keep you on unemployment a little longer.